Night as we go out in explosive and dramatic fashion. We wrap things up here at ringside with Mike. Mike, let's get your final thoughts on what you just saw. Unbelievable stuff.
The whole card tonight was dynamic. To watch the Tyson pendulum fight was just warming your blood and boiling, and just to see Mercado fight Hopkins and to finish it off with this stunning Ike Williams left hook, man. I never dreamed anything like that could even happen to Simon Brown. All
right, let's get to the immediate future right now of Mike Tyson. When will your first fight back be?
Well, you know, it's not far away. I'll be around.
A couple of months, maybe August or something like that?
Let me leave the surprise to you.
Yeah, right, okay. Are you back in the gym?
Yeah, I'm there. I've been there since the first week I've been home.
How are you feeling right now working out?
I feel good. I wish I felt as good as everyone said I looked.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good.
Is that right? What about your corner? Have you selected corner people?
Well, I have people that I'm experimenting with at this particular moment.
Any names? Can you name anybody?
Yeah, I'm sure the press receives some names, and you'll find out in the near future. Won't be long.
Being very evasive. Right, how long before you fight for a title?
Hey, I'm just happy being out here. All praise be to Allah that I'm here, and I can sit down and enjoy the fights with you, but in due time, God willing.
All right, you don't want to give any dates. Will we see anything new from Mike Tyson in the ring, from the new Mike Tyson?
You only see what you saw before, winning.
What's your biggest concern in terms of boxing skills after sitting out 3 years?
I feel good. I haven't found any hang-ups. Just about basically I don't feel as good as everyone said I look, but I guess that's at a coming time after I start sparring.
We've heard we've heard the term ring rust, but can the time off be of any help to you?
Well, like I said before I left boxing for 3 years, I no longer had interest in fighting. I'd grown bored of fighting. It wasn't exciting to me. It wasn't a challenge to me, and I had other objectives in mind. But at this particular point in my life, I look back in retrospect for the last 3 years, and I'm looking forward to what I do best.
You've said before that your whole life is predicated on the fight game, on boxing. So what you're saying is that the thirst and the hunger for boxing is back again now after 3 years?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What about the speculation that you were going to split with Don King? Was that ever a legitimate consideration on your part?
Well, nothing basically legitimate for me concerning Don King. Me and Don King are together. We're a team, and I'm basically content with my situation now.
Was there ever any thought given to leaving Don?
Well, I never had any thought of leaving Don, but there's always thought of anything.
How are you different today? You as a person, not as a fighter. How is Mike Tyson different today from the one who went into prison 3 years ago?
I like to believe that I'm more mature than the Mike Tyson that before he went in prison.
Well, Bobby Ches, of course, would love to get in the ring with you. If that can't be worked out, there's a chance we can work something out between you and the fight doctor, Freddie Pacheco. You'd make a lot of people happy, Mike.
Hey, if the price is right, I'll fight a lion.
Okay. Hey, listen, we thank you for joining us here tonight. You saw a very exciting fight card, and we'll see you again down the road.
They said Simon was okay, though.
Yes, the last word from the fight doctor, Freddie Pacheco, he walked out under his own power. So obviously that's a very
Isn't that incredible? Man,
Really was a wild ending, huh? Welcome back to the fight game, huh? What a way to start back out.
You have a good night yourself.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. All right.
America's resistance to Mike Tyson's return may only be surpassed by our resistance to paying $50 to see him fight Peter McNeeley. That is the pay-per-view price tag for his comeback bout on August 19th. Tyson held a press conference today to talk about that fight, his first pro venture since June of '91.
My whole career, I never watched films of anyone I fought, but I think I'm going to make an exception for this one.
Oh, well.
I don't rate anyone. I'm just here to do a job, brother. Well, I've been pretty much successful for the last 8 or 7 years doing what I've been doing from the beginning. I believe that I'm just going to continue to doing what I've been doing. Unfortunately, like I said before, it's all up to Allah. I'm neither Ali or Mr. Dempsey, and I believe I'm going to do well.
Iron Mike had even more to say, including his take on the ever-muddled heavyweight division and whether or not pro boxers should wear headgear. More from Mike Tyson coming up a little bit later in the show.
Mike Tyson today talked about his boxing career, taking questions from the press for the first time since his release from an Indiana prison. Now, the real answers may lie one or maybe more fights into the future. The former champion was succinct to a soundbite fault and soft-spoken, but confident that his career would pick up where it left off, making history.
I'm not a good guy, neither am I a bad guy. I'm just a human being trying to just get along in this world. You know what I mean? I'm involved with a sport that I love, but it doesn't love me.
But it needs him, desperately. Today's appearance was nominally to begin the push for Tyson's August 19th fight against Peter McNeely. The greater enticement was to hear Mike Tyson speak on his status as the #1 contender after 4 years out of the ring.
That's the way I left, and that's the way I came back.
There were suggestions that Tyson's once unreal skills had diminished even before his imprisonment in his last few fights.
Who said that? Where are they? No one never told me that, in my face, of course.
On the impressive showing last weekend by former champ Evander Holyfield?
He always looked good in his fights. Yeah. I don't have anything against Holyfield. I believe he's an outstanding fighter. I just believe I'm just the best.
The passing of Colombian fighter Jimmy Garcia has brought some suggestions boxers should wear headgear.
We might as well ban boxing if that's the case. We're talking about I don't mean to elaborate too longly on this particular issue, but we're discussing a sport that's mainly what it is. It's a fighter's sport. This is the hurt business. The headgear would totally destroy boxing.
Today's press conference had strict guidelines, only questions inside the ring.
How much has your newly found religion motivated you to once again become the undisputed heavyweight champion?
If you wish to ask me any more questions, if you wish for me to stay here, you're going to only ask me questions that concern boxing, if you don't mind. I don't mean to sound like I'm being abrupt to you, but that's what I prefer, because that's what I'm here for. If you don't mind, brother. Thank you.
Yet Tyson did reveal he has converted to Islam.
I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a Muslim.
He invoked Allah's name on a number of occasions and had some classical references as well.
Well, I'm not Nostradamus or anybody, but I just want to do well. And when you come from a perspective of Aristotle or Socrates, the main issue is nothing's great. Humans are not great. You know what I mean? There's only great obstacles to conquer, but there's no one here that's great. Only Allah's great.
Mike Tyson saying today he has been in training now for several months, since the fortnight after his prison release, for a fight that will answer most eloquently the years of questions about this sport's most magnetic figure.
Tyson's comeback fight is set for August 19th versus Peter McNeely. It was announced at a press conference Wednesday where Tyson talked. Apparently, 3 years in the pen for the heavyweight has put him in touch with some heavyweight thinkers.
I'm not a good guy, neither am I a bad guy. I'm just a human being trying to just get along in this world. You know what I mean? I'm involved with a sport that I love, but it doesn't love me. Well, I'm not Nostradamus or anybody, but I just want to do well. When you come from a perspective of Aristotle or Socrates, the main issue is nothing's great. Humans are not great. You know what I mean? There's only great obstacles to conquer, but there's no one here that's great. Only Allah's great.
Meanwhile, Mike Tyson's promoter continues to be the great Don King. The fight will take place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The pay-per-view price is $50. Keith.
Tyson. Well, that was a name and one of the most visible sports figures on the planet, and probably the most feared. He then became its most notorious sports figure, but now he is the most curious as he makes his way back to the boxing ring. Tyson today in Las Vegas made his return to boxing official, announcing a date with Peter McNeely August 19th. Nick Charles was on hand for the word.
Mike Tyson has been conspicuous by his absence, but he was literally back on stage. The occasion was to formally announce his return to the boxing ring he used to rule with a fury.
I'm not a good guy, neither am I a bad guy. I'm just a human being trying to just get along in this world.
Tyson will fight Peter McNeely August 19th in Las Vegas. But the more immediate news was Tyson had broken his silence.
Gentlemen, I feel great. I really don't have any worries. Just, you know, I get a little nervous before the fights. It's normal, but I never tell my mind that I'm not as good as I used to be. All the people that made these accusations, they never fought anybody. You know, these are people that always been on the sidelines talking about me and my style of fighting and how I deteriorated. They never fought anybody. They never fought me. So they would never know. They never fought me more than once if they did even, so they would never know.
Tyson refused to answer any questions other than those pertaining to boxing. However, his co-managers, who are also the two people closest to him, spoke of the lessons learned from and 3 years in prison.
He's more serious about life as a whole from a public's point of view. I've always known that he was serious about his life, but it would come and go sometime, whatever, as he became older and more mature, as all of us do.
So what conclusions did he come to about himself?
Well, that you know, actually he is a good person, that he do got to carry himself in a certain manner, that he is not just a run-of-the-mill guy on the street, that he is someone special, that he is someone that's vulnerable to all the evils out there, that he do really got to protect himself.
Trying to be humble as much as possible. You know, I mean, it's very difficult because for a long period of time, I was brash, I was arrogant, and I had reason to be. But I didn't understand Allah, I didn't understand Islam, and it's just a very difficult transition as far as socially. But I'm trying to hold my own with it.
Mike Tyson has a 4-year gap in his resume, but he's a free man now, intent on leaving his past behind so he can anticipate a future once more filled with fame, fortune, and perhaps this time contentment, the one quality that seems to have eluded him. Nick Charles, CNN, Las Vegas.
And this ominous word from a chap named Carlos Blackwell. He's a fitness trainer who's been working with Tyson over the past month. He says Tyson is in better shape now than he was before the prison stretch, and that the new Mike Tyson would have, quote, knocked out the old one.
Come August 19th, it could get ugly in a hurry inside the boxing ring at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas as former world heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson makes his comeback against Peter McNeely. Currently ranked 10th in the World Boxing Council, McNeely has a 31-1 record. Stuart, you weren't with us yesterday, but we told you pay-per-view costs will run in the neighborhood of $50. If you want to see the bout in person, the least you'll pay is $200. Ringside seats go for $1,500.
And you're telling the right person, of course. I mean, I am involved in money on a day-to-day basis, that's true.
What am I going to get for my money? Does any opponent really have a good chance against Iron Mike?
No, Mike Tyson comes in as the #1 contender. Shocks some people. Tyson says, it's the way I went out, it's the way I come back. I deserve the #1 ranking. So we will see what happens. Mr. McNeely will have his hands full.
Indeed. Mark McKay, thanks so much.
Boxing. Mike Tyson will return to the ring in 5 weeks, and so far he's maintained a cloak of security that even MacGyver couldn't infiltrate, especially since his show was canceled. No news organizations have been allowed to photograph any of Iron Mike's workouts. What are you looking at? However, the Tyson camp did take their own shots and thankfully handed out the video today, keeping our overhead costs down. Judging from these pictures, Tyson looks like he's in good shape, trying to get rid of the ring rust from 3 years in prison. Included in this hand-delivered videotape, an interview with Tyson. He wasn't talking about his opponent or boxing or life as a free man. The topic, how he expects to be betrayed.
I'm just a strong believer that before the end of my time, I will be betrayed by perhaps the closest people to me. Because as from my experience, I know the best of friends show us apart as well. You know what I mean? I'm just a different person. I'm just, as far as my thinking and my belief and people I'm associated with, very difficult to get along with me.
Interesting comments there. Tyson, a 25-1 favorite in his comeback bout against Peter McNeely. The fight to be at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas on August the 19th. Brett?
Will he be the same fighter? Will he still have that rage, that fire in his eyes? Will he still strike fear in the hearts of his opponents? Will he be the Mike Tyson of old? Or will he be better? The return of Mike Tyson. Tyson versus McNeely, Saturday, August 19th, live on pay-per-view. You've waited 4 years for this. The fighter of the decade. The boxing event of the year. On August 19th, guess who's back? The return of Mike Tyson. Tyson versus McNeely, Saturday, August 19th, live on pay-per-view.
only 2 weeks from Saturday. Order now.
Long time no see, Michael Gerard Tyson. 2 weeks from this Saturday night, Mike Tyson will involve himself in a prize fight for the first time in 50 months when he takes on a regional club fighter by the name of Peter McNeely. The fight, such that it is expected to be nothing more than a coming-out party for one of boxing's most charismatic personalities. Since his release from prison, by design, Tyson has been kept out of the limelight. In fact, until this afternoon, Tyson has not allowed cameras other than his own to record any of his workouts, which is what makes this video all the more intriguing. His strength and conditioning coach, a fellow named Carlos Blackwell, says Tyson has cut his body fat down by 17%, weighs 222 now, should weigh 220 on fight night. Tyson, who is now 29 years old, looks far more chiseled than he ever did in his heyday. Last fought in June of 1991 when he won a unanimous decision over Donovan Razor Roddick. Go ahead over the next 30 minutes. Mike Tyson in his first public workout as he prepares for his first fist fight in 4 years.
Charlie, 2 weeks from Saturday, Mike Tyson has his first fight in 4 years. And so far, he's been about as animated and vocal as that still over my shoulder. As Tyson continues camp in Las Vegas to prepare for Peter McNeely, the former champ staged his first public workout since his spring prison release. And it was impressive. He didn't get in the ring, but Tyson's still not talking, and although the cameras have been banned from his compound in Ohio, he clearly has been working out. Looking chiseled, fit, and focused, Tyson is at 222 pounds, only a couple of pounds below his targeted fight weight for McNeely, just 17 days away.
As you know, there are 3 uses of the word dude. There's dude, how's it going? There's dude, you messed up. And then there's the Peter McNeely use. Dude, is Mike Tyson going to pummel me? Pay-per-dude and ringside viewers will find out August 19th as Tyson begins his comeback against the lightly regarded McNeely.
You haven't been in a real fight in about 4 years. So are you concerned how your body's going to react to the punishment?
Well, I haven't been hit too much when I was fighting either.
Oh.
I'm coming for some respect. I'm in shape. I'm a warrior. I'm coming to rumble. And that's true, I have predicted a knockout. When I wrap Mike Tyson in a cocoon of horror, he'll be singing with our friends down at the House of Blues.
The horror. Peter McNeely, 36-1. He didn't start his pro career until August of '91, 2 months after Tyson's last fight. McNeely's knocked out 21 humans in the first round, and he's been on Letterman.
I gotta turn your lights out, buddy.
You've seen him on Letterman and Leno. Next on Up Close, Mike Tyson's first opponent, Hurricane Peter McNeely, on his fight plan.
The best way to approach Mike Tyson in the ring after he's taken such a long layoff is to get right on him.
Plus, he responds to those who have labeled him the Great White Hope.
It doesn't matter whether I'm black, white, or purple, or what color he is. He's going to try and get me, and I'm going to try and get him.
Hi, welcome to the show. Chris Myers here in Los Angeles. On August 19th, Mike Tyson's comeback in the ring begins when he fights 26-year-old Peter McNeely in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand on pay-per-view. McNeely, a 36-1 record and a boxing history in his family, joins us here on the program. Thanks for coming on, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you. Why fight this fight?
Why not? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. It's going to be the probably the most watched single sports media event of all times. It's a win-win situation.
Well, why not? Danger, safety. Tyson can hurt people.
Yeah, and I might knock him off and foul up all the MGM and Showtime's plans.
How much have you watched Mike Tyson?
I grew up watching Mike Tyson.
You have a poster, right, in your room, or you did since '89?
Yeah, we've got a big poster of Mike Tyson in the room. I, started watching Mike in '85, '86 when I was a senior in high school, and then right up when I was a freshman in college, I used to make the ride home from school just to catch the fights on HBO, and now it's now it's going to be Hurricane Peter McNeely versus Mike Tyson.
Would you say you're more of an admirer of Mike Tyson?
Oh, I was a very big admirer. He was definitely a boxing hero to me, and I never missed a fight. I've got a lot of his pre-title fights on tape. I've got all his title fights on tape, except for the Bone Hugger Smith fight. I erased that one. And I got a couple of the fights, his post-title fights on. And, I never would have thought, when I started my amateur boxing career, I didn't win my first amateur fight till I was 19. And he'd already won his second world's title when I had my first amateur fight. So I never would have thought our paths were going to cross like this.
Are you fighting for the money? Is that part of it?
No.
How much are you getting, by the way? What do you think you'll...
I'm getting $600,000.
Okay. Will you take home that much?
No. This is a team hurricane.
So what will you actually take home? What do you ballpark there?
That's something that's got to be figured out later.
Okay. So so obviously the money is...
But this hasn't been Peter McNeely hasn't been the sole operator of this train. I've got a terrific team behind me. Vinny Vecchione, my manager, and Cliff Phippen from the South Shore Boxing Club in Whitman, and a few other sponsors and stragglers. So, it's a team effort.
You said, all right, so it's not the money, and you said, why not? Is it, is this your shot? I mean, you're ready for this?
To me, I think the most important thing is that this is a challenge. It's not even just Peter McNeely versus Mike Tyson. It's Peter McNeely versus Peter McNeely.
How so?
I've got to prove, I'm looking to prove something to myself. I'm not looking to prove anything to anybody else but to myself.
Are there better ways to do that, though, than go up against one of the fiercest fighters, even though he's had the 3.5-year layoff?
Well, this has been a dream of mine since I was probably about 6 or 7 years old when I crawled up in the attic when I was a kid. And I knew my dad was a professional fighter, but I didn't know to what degree. And when I found my dad on the cover of Ring Magazine and Sports Illustrated in his world title fight program against Patterson, that was where the quest began.
1961, you talked to your father much about that fight?
In the past, I did, and I've gotten an opportunity of viewing the fight a few times on videotape, and but not really too much has been spoken lately. I'm kind of going my own way with this and doing it Peter McNeely style.
Your grandfather actually fought in the Olympics in 28.
My grandfather made the 1928 Olympic team. Then in his first pro fight, he opened the Boston Garden in 1928.
And your father, still, you communicate with him. Have you talked to him about this particular fight? Has he given you any advice?
My dad has always maintained through my whole career, I had to prove to my dad that I wanted this. My dad never pushed me into boxing. This has been my dream. I never let the dream die. I was a fan and a wannabe from an early stage. I couldn't get close enough to a boxing gym, though, growing up in Medfield, Massachusetts. It's an upper middle class to wealthy community. There was no boxing. So I was always, after the flavor of boxing. So I tried to read the books and the magazines and watching it on the TV. And I never let the dream die, and I finally was able to take it up when I was able to get on my own 2 feet in college and drive myself to a gym in a city somewhere.
What do you think drew you into the sport?
Well, I got my feet wet in boxing with just the basics when my parents were split up when I was a kid. And one of my recreations, me and my little brother Snubby, we'd go on Saturday mornings with my dad overnight, and Saturday morning we'd go to a CYO program and learn the basics of boxing. About 2 months out of the year on Saturday mornings, we'd learn how to bite down a mouthpiece and stand up to our man. The thing got shut down after a short while, so that was where I got my feet wet, and I knew from that time that what I wanted to do in life. I knew it was going to be my fate and my destiny someday to be a fighter.
Any doubts along the way about maybe this isn't the right thing?
Never. Not a one. Not a one. I've always wanted this. I believe that my dad had 4 boys. I was named after his manager. As fate would have it, there was a 25% chance that one of them was going to be a fighter. As fate would have it, the one who was named after his manager, me, was the one who took up the opportunity.
Why do you think you were chosen for this fight? And it is a big deal. It's Mike Tyson's first, and in fact, people look at you as just a victim going into this. But why do you think you were chosen?
Well, me personally, I believe that because of my strong family heritage, being a white heavyweight, and also my large record. I've got a 36-1 record with 30 KOs, and I'm a tremendous crowd pleaser. I come right at you. I got 30 knockouts. I got 21 first-round knockouts.
You knocked somebody out in 6 seconds.
My last fight was a world record breaker. I knocked out Frankie Hines in Hot Springs, Arkansas in 6 seconds. It's the fastest knockout in heavyweight history.
All right, but if you weren't white, you don't think you would have been chosen?
No, I don't necessarily believe that either, but I really believe it was the whole package. I'm an exciting fighter. I draw people to the seats. I've got a fat record, and I've got a strong family history in boxing, so I think it's been the total package marketable on paper.
He's getting ready for August 19th. We're with Peter McNeely, who will, of course, be facing Mike Tyson at the MGM Grand. And when we come back on Up Close, we'll go more into the history, find out some of the mechanics of his boxing style and how that matches up with Mike Tyson and his comeback. Don't go away.
Up Close is brought to you by FedEx. For documents, packages, and freight worldwide, our most important package is yours. And by Office Depot, taking care of business with guaranteed low prices on thousands of brand name office supplies.
Okay. The next face Mike Tyson sees in the ring after 3.5 years of prison will be that of our next guest. Say a prayer and welcome the Rodney Dangerfield of boxing, Hurricane Peter McNeely. How you doing?
Good.
Nice to meet you. Hey, you didn't see it. I could have turned your lights out, buddy.
Peter McNeely, a couple of weeks ago on David Letterman. You've gained much notoriety from this, but it looks like people are poking fun. You comfortable with that?
It feeds the faith and starves the doubt. This is, like I said, this has been I've been dreaming of this my whole life, and as far as monetary, the things you asked me before about the monetary value of this and the race issue, I've been dreaming of this for so long that I was so young that I didn't understand the value of a dollar, and I didn't understand race issues between black and white. And I really believe that when the bell rings, it doesn't matter whether I'm black, white, or purple, or what color he is. He's going to try and get me, and I'm going to try and get him. That's the bottom line.
But the hype beforehand, appearing on a show like David Letterman, had to be a kick. I mean, that's great exposure for your career no matter what happens in this fight.
Those are the extra perks that come along with a fight like this that have been a lot of fun. I've been, back home, I was invited to a major concert, and I was given the opportunity to get up. They brought me up on stage and handed me the microphone in front of 20,000 people. So that and Letterman, I'd say, were my favorite opportunities that came my way.
The Jay Leno program, The Tonight Show. Now tell us the story about Julia Roberts backstage on the Letterman program.
Well, I guess this is my chance to clear the air on this. Michael Marley has seemed to made much to do about this. Really, what happened was I was occupying the green room, waiting for my spot, and Julia was kind of hanging around on the show a little too long. Was taking up my time and somebody else's, and I was a little bit starstruck. I wanted to meet her, just to say I met her, and she's a beautiful woman and a great actress. So I went up to her and I said hello when she was coming by, and I offered her an autographed picture of myself.
Did she know who you were?
Yeah, she said, she looked at me and she said, you're the guy. I said, that's right, baby, I am. And she gave me a hug and a kiss and wished me luck.
Is she coming to the fight? Or?
I have no idea. I didn't offer tickets to the fight. Michael Marley might have trying to boost my image, which is fine by me, but the ticket prices are so expensive, and people have been all over me at home for tickets that I'm not offering anybody anything except my family members.
I guess it was $50 on pay-per-view. Is that, can you get the family a discount?
Can't catch it on the scene, get it on the screen, live on pay-per-view.
Tell me how you were selected. You talked about maybe why you thought, but you were supposed to fight Oliver McCall.
Yeah, that was, I'd say that was a great media training camp for me last fall. I had the great opportunity to sign on with the greatest promoter the world has ever seen, Don King. A year ago, June, and I signed my 4-year promotional deal with him, and right away things got better. I got ranked in the world. My opponents got better. I knocked out a former world champion, and next thing you know, this past fall, I was on the eve of fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world against Oliver McCall when he knocked off Lennox Lewis. And the next thing you know, one night I come home and I got a press conference going on at my house. So I got a lot of press out of that, a lot of attention, and then no fight. So it was kind of like a good dry run to get me prepared. So then the second time around, my manager will tell you I was a lot better prepared for it.
Is there a moral victory in this fight for you with Tyson?
I'd say so. I definitely would say that's true.
That's it. You're candid about it.
I'm getting, well, see, I've been getting, like David Letterman said, I'm, a Rodney Dangerfield of boxing, getting no respect. So win, lose, or draw, I think I'm going to earn the respect of many.
And that's important. So even if you don't win, you present yourself enough, you'll be happy with that.
I want to solidify my place in the heavyweight division, and as well as first I got to prove something to Peter McNeely. Secondly, I got to prove something to the fight game and the fans.
Have you met Mike Tyson?
Once at the initial announcement, and you know, they're kind of not really paying me too much attention. They think I'm just an opponent. You know, the little things, and you know, on the poster, my picture's about this big. He's about this big. You know, so.
Do you sense he's treating you that way?
I don't know if it's so much him or his managers around him or you know, other people involved in the promotion, but it really doesn't matter because when the bell rings, I'm going to have something to say.
What's the best way to approach Mike Tyson in the ring?
The best way to approach Mike Tyson in the ring after he's taken such a long layoff is to get right on him, back him up, bully him, do everything possible to break his concentration, which will possibly not be all that strong anyways, because he's been out for 4 years and he's been out of prison a short time. And I think he's being pushed into this fight a little too quickly.
You will lean on that layoff then. You're going to use that in your strategy.
You got it.
Now, you're a body puncher. Is he going to be a tough guy to get in on?
Yeah, I'm a great body puncher, but I'm a good head puncher, and I've got to believe that I've got to back him up and bully him and do whatever it takes. I've got to bang him to the body as well as to the head.
Do you fear him at all?
Not in the least bit. I fought a guy one time who was 6'10", 280 pounds, and I'd say mentally, that was the only fight I lost. I got busted open over the eye, I got 40 stitches. And I'd say mentally climbing into the ring, looking at that guy, made me prepared for anything in life.
So you learned from that?
I learned from that. You know, Mike Tyson's just a little guy. Believe it or not, I'm probably going to outweigh him.
So intimidation, he will not have that working for him against you?
No.
All right, more with Peter McNeely up close from Los Angeles in a moment. Don't go away.
Music Express, voted #1 by the National Limousine Association, has offices in Los Angeles and on the East Coast. Music Express can handle your corporate needs anywhere in the U.S. and worldwide. And guests of Up Close stay at the Beverly Prescott, L.A.'s premier boutique hotel. Call your travel agent to make reservations at the Beverly Prescott, a Kimpton hotel.
Welcome back to the program. We're with Peter McNeely. Of course, August 19th, he goes up against Mike Tyson. By the way, thanks for dressing up for the show. You know, we were talking about, and I kid because I care, we were talking about how much money you're going to make on the fight. They got to help you with wardrobe, although tell me about the T-shirt.
This is a new shirt that the guy that owns the South Shore Boxing Club, Cliff Fippen, made for me special. And I figured I might as well put it on today because it makes me look big.
You can see the muscles. You called yourself a big fish in a little pond, and now that's going to change.
Yeah, well, now it's gotten on the national and worldwide hype, and it's not just in the Commonwealth and Medfield anymore.
What's the largest crowd you fought in front of before?
Wow, geez, I'd say no more than 3,000.
What kind of thoughts will race through your mind, or have you given any thought to what you might feel or think when you first step in the ring that night?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris. You know, you go through a lot of the same similar feelings before fights, but you also get a lot of the different ones, too. And I think this fight, we're throwing everything out the window. It's kind of like the Thanksgiving Day football game. Throw the records out the window. Really, for this fight, I'm walking underneath ladders. I'm letting black cats, you know, throwing all superstition out the window. This one's different.
Different in that for you it's make or break?
Oh, no. Oh, no. This is not a make-or-break situation. This is a win-win situation.
But what if you get in there, Peter, and the unthinkable? I mean, you were just talking about respect, but let's say you're the first-round victim here. Let's say Mike really tears you up. Will you ever get another shot, do you think?
Big deal. Then people can say, all right, McNeely was green and inexperienced like we thought, and I lose to possibly the greatest puncher of the modern era.
Is he, in your opinion?
I'd say so.
Where does he rank in terms of all-time heavyweights?
#1.
In your mind currently?
Yeah, when I knock him off, then I'll be #1.
Let's go back to the strategy a little bit. Well, certainly you're not short on confidence. We know that. In fighting a guy like Tyson, you said you looked at tape of him, you've watched. Have you broken down certain things? And you're going back, remember what you're seeing is what he was before he went into prison.
Exactly. And I think we're seeing a situation here very similar to Muhammad Ali's situation back in the late 60s, early 70s. Of course, Muhammad Ali took 3.5, 4 years off from his stand against Vietnam. And, you couldn't touch Muhammad Ali in the 60s. The Muhammad Ali that came back in the 70s was a slightly larger, slightly slower Muhammad Ali, and the other guys rose up and the fights became more competitive. I think we're going to see a very similar situation to that.
At last check.
Especially when they're taking me lightly. I really believe they chose the wrong guy, and I'm going to stand up to this guy. I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm going right at him, and I'm going to look to back him up.
How many rounds do you have to go? What kind of fight do you have to fight, even if you don't win, to prove something to Peter McNeely?
It's scheduled for 10 rounds. If I can't get... I'm hot in the first round. I got 21 first-round knockouts. If I can't knock him out in the first round or in the first 3 rounds, I'd like to go the route. I'd like to go the whole 10 with Mike Tyson, so I went 10 rounds.
You've never gone more than 8 rounds, right? Any of your pro fights. Does that concern you a little bit?
Not in the least bit. Like I said, this fight, I'm throwing everything out the window on this fight. I'm going to be so hyped up for this one. It's going to be a bigger and better Hurricane Peter McNeely coming in.
We are with Hurricane McNeely, and at last check, 25-1 the odds against Mike Tyson, and that's about what they were when Buster Douglas did what he did. We'll talk about that fight. We'll be back in a moment.
My odds are better.
Higher?
Better.
Long shot?
Better. He had greater odds against him. I got better odds.
All right, we'll be back with Peter and his odds in a moment. Don't go away.
Clothing provided by Renzi. Quite simply, the finest clothing experience for men. Remember, Renzi, we take your look seriously because we know you can't win if you're not even in the game.
We're with Peter McNeely, born in Boston, Muhammad Ali, his hero, and big fan of the movie Raging Bull. And yeah, a college degree, political science from Bridgewater State College. We were talking about the odds of the fight. Now, you opened at the MGM Grand 30-1. It's down to 15, 16-1. Buster Douglas at one time, I guess, was 42-1.
I was told he was 70-1. And that was only at one casino. The rest of the casinos, he was off the boards. They weren't even taking action.
Did you bet on him? Buster Douglas?
I drove home from Bridgewater State College that night to see that fight because I knew that he was going to do better than people were giving him credit for. I never thought he'd knock him out, but I knew he was going to do better than people were giving him credit for, so I knew enough to get home and watch it.
So you saw that
and
fight.
I taped it.
All right, you taped it. Have you looked at it again recently?
No. Like I said, throwing everything out on this fight. I'm not watching films. I believe we're probably going to see a different Mike Tyson, and we're also going to see a different Hurricane Peter McNeely.
But wouldn't it be to your benefit to recall what happened in that fight from your underdog role here?
Well, with all the media hype, I have seen some clips of the footage. I'm not going in and digging up the films, but I've seen some of the footage here and there. And I believe that Mike Tyson is going to be a little sharper as far as his conditioning was for that fight. He was in poor condition for that fight, but his timing is going to be off because he hasn't fought in 4 years for this fight. So I think that, with the total package of his being off and my being on, that made the odds a little closer.
What you may have in the disrespect or underdog role, Tyson may have in the I'm out to get rid of all this anger, this built-up hostility.
Sure.
You expect to see that, feel that, sense that?
Of course I do. I've got nothing to lose in this fight. I've got everything to gain. He's got everything to lose.
We're with Peter McNeely, and we'll ask him about why he doesn't like the Rocky comparisons. He almost was in a Rocky film. Up Close from Los Angeles continues in a moment. Don't go away.
Travel provided by Continental, offering One Pass, where you can earn free travel faster than any other frequent flyer program.
If you call the home of Peter McNeely in Medfield, Mass., and he's not there to pick up the phone, this is what you'll hear.
You've reached Hurricanes Hotline, home of the WBA and WBC's world-rated heavyweight contender, Hurricane Peter McNeely. I'm Mike Tyson. I'm coming at you. Please leave a message, a phone number, and I'll try to get back to you later.
You do your own sound effects?
You know, people have been trying to get me to change my sound effects. I said it's like Wayne's World. The minute you change it, it's going to die.
It's good. Hurricane McNeely, and, you know, you do return your calls. Proof of that, you returned ours.
Yep.
Let me ask you about the Rocky comparisons. Why don't you like that? You almost had the part in Rocky V that went to Tommy Morrison.
Yeah, I came in second place behind Morrison for that part.
But this really looks like a Rocky story, doesn't it? What's wrong with that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. Just that, you know, I think that the general public, they align themselves with Rocky because they've never either competed in boxing or seen boxing, so that's the only thing they can compare it to. But realistically, you know, if you're a boxer, I am everything that the Rocky story is not. I'm a square peg in the fight game. I'm a white kid who's college educated from a wealthy suburban upper middle class community. I'm well managed, which Rocky Balboa was not.
Burgess Meredith won't like that.
This is a real life situation. It's not a fictional character.
Well, hopefully you'll have a happy ending. You sense though that most people are rooting for you.
I'd put it this way. I'd tell you, even the people that don't think I can win want me to win.
And any plans already made for after the fight?
Well, David Letterman invited me back, win, lose, or draw. I'd like to give him his shot at me after the fight. And then I'm going to, my mom's got a place down the Cape, all set for me for the week after the fight. So I think I'm going to spend some time down the Cape.
All right, well, we want to have you back, too. Either way, you're a lot of fun, and good luck in the fight,
Thanks
Peter.
a lot, Chris.
All right, we appreciate it. Good luck to you. Peter McNeely, August 19th, we'll see him at the MGM Grand against Mike Tyson in Las Vegas. I'm Chris Myers here in Los Angeles. Thanks for watching Up Close. We'll see you later on. Take care.
Minutes here on SportsCenter. Charlie has our cover story on Mike Tyson, and the name Peter McNeely won't be mentioned a single time. This is about Tyson's time in jail and the special privileges he received for who he was and what he had.
Tyson had the cash. Anything Mr. Tyson would have wanted, he could have gotten.
During his 3 years at the Indiana Youth Center, Mike Tyson had frequent and often very famous visitors, but he also gave very few interviews. As a result, we knew very little about Tyson's life behind bars. Last week, I went back to Indiana, spoke with two inmates who were in prison at the same time in the same place as the former heavyweight champion. I also spoke with others who saw Tyson most often during his incarceration. Tyson, the prison years. Tonight's cover story. It was April 15th, 1992, when the then former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, was delivered here to the Indiana Youth Center. He walked through this door to begin serving a 3-year term as prisoner 922-335.
Here's a man who had virtually the world at his feet. Almost overnight, he's making 65 cents a day, offender wages. We're telling him that he'll get up at 6:30 in the morning, make his bed, clean his room. He'll go to lunch at 11. He'll go to supper at 4:30. He'll go to bed at 11:30 at night, and he'll be locked in a 8-by-12 room with a person that he doesn't choose to live with necessarily.
Everybody talked about it was chaotic, really, because the administration didn't know how to handle him being there.
We had absolutely no idea what to expect from him.
They didn't know if he was supposed to be treated like every other inmate or if he was supposed to be treated like Mike Tyson.
We had a few officers who would go out of their way to find fault with him. We're a little cautious about who we assigned to those dormitories where he was living. They pretty much treated him fairly.
How was he treated?
Like Mike Tyson.
He had a lot more phone privileges, visiting time, certain privileges that could be known and was known, he had more of.
We had visiting lists. He had, you know, however many visits he wanted.
Tyson had the cash. Anything Mr. Tyson would have wanted, he could have gotten.
There was a lot of things that went on that, as far as him getting his special privileges, no one really minded.
Because Mike Tyson was the most famous prison inmate in the state of Indiana. And that was a double-edged sword. Because would someone dare challenge the former heavyweight champion of the world? That at first made Tyson fearful.
I think when he first got there, he was, because people were hollering things out the window.
We thought there would be problems with other offenders in him.
And they knew how famous they could become if they hit Mike Tyson. So I'm sure he walked around with fear in the back of his mind every single day.
But aside from a skirmish with a guard in the first few weeks of his stay, there was no evidence of any Tyson trouble in prison.
Obviously, he's a very charismatic person. Really does have an aura about him. I think he realizes this, that he has this power over people, and would use that occasionally, I think, in his dealings with other staff and offenders.
How so?
If somebody, a glare, just the coldness that he was able to emote was enough to keep most people from almost like, a rattlesnake can really hurt you, and that rattlesnake doesn't have to do very much.
While Tyson remained mostly a loner, he did open up a little bit to a few inmates.
He was a down-to-earth person that came from the streets. He just got a break because he was able to fight. And that's basically how we seen it. He wasn't arrogant or none of that.
I thought he'd have a total different attitude than what he had. I thought he'd have a pissed-off attitude, like, get away from me. And it wasn't like that at all. He was down to earth. And that's what really surprised me.
Blacks, whites, it didn't matter. I mean, if you just wanted to sit down, talk to him, look at his pictures or whatever, it was cool. But if you was coming at him trying to run some kind of con or something, then that's when he would have a problem.
But Tyson would have no problem greeting his jet-set visitors.
Don King,
Spike Lee,
Marshall Falk,
Charles Oakley,
Pepper from Salt and Pepper,
Whitney Houston,
Chris Webber,
Roberto Duran,
Tupac came down,
Riddick Bowe was here.
But by most accounts, Tyson generally kept to himself and became a voracious reader.
Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
And studied Islam under Muhammad Sadiq. How devout is Mike Tyson?
Mike is as much Muslim as any Muslim on the planet Earth.
Well, I don't think it's a religious aspect at all, Charlie. I think what it is a study in human beings, a study in life and living.
Everybody talks about his lack of intelligence. But if you was to ask Mike anything about history, he could answer it for you. See, because he didn't become a full Muslim. He was just studying their beliefs, and that's what he was doing. He was learning about it.
Throughout his 3 years in prison, and to this day, Mike Tyson maintains he was wrongfully convicted of rape.
He was like, he didn't do it. He was adamant about that. He did not do it. It's just his method of being with females was a little different than, I guess, what her past had been. He was just a little bit more aggressive. But no, he adamant about he did not rape her.
He felt like he had been done wrong.
By whom?
By the justice system.
Mike would say, Sadiq, I didn't do what they accused me of. He said, but I did so many other things that they didn't know anything about. He said, this is probably God punishing me for some of those other things.
By most accounts, Tyson matured and mellowed in his 3 years in prison.
I think I saw a broadening of interest in lots of things that he had probably not had the time to really devote himself to.
I think he grew up more. The religion probably helped him grow up more, see more what life is, what's out there in life. So he was just, the impression I get is that he was just living day by day. What, this day, this day, this day. Now he's looking more along the lines of the future.
We will focus on the comeback of Mike Tyson in detail in our latest edition of Outside the Lines. Tyson, the return this Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, immediately following NFL Prime Monday. What makes Don King tick? What kind of fighting shape is Tyson really in? And the people closest to the former champ. All explored this Monday night.
Out from behind bars and into the ring, Mike Tyson from where he begins his comeback. Larry King live from Las Vegas tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN. Mike Tyson live from Las Vegas on Larry King Live tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.